Not like your whole life, and you're connected to Puff, right? And so,
Oh
who
my God.
doesn't want to put a business idea in front of Puff? Who doesn't want to put
Hey
a
man, I
show in
got
front?
this
Yeah.
idea, my brother. Why don't you check this out,
Who,
man? Like,
like who doesn't want to do that, right? Like
matter of
Puff.
fact, I got some shit for Puffy written on.
No, that's real. Puff makes every like the
Yeah.
reason I came to Revolt. I was like, black owned media can't make it. If it can make it, Puff is the only one because he's the magic, right?
Well, welcome again to another episode of the world's greatest game. I got my brother Detavio
Yes,
Samuels,
sir.
newly minted CEO, king of Revolt. I love it, man. I am humbled that you would take the time to come to my house, man, again. And I know you're busy, brother.
No,
You
all
guys
good,
got a
man.
lot going on. It's not easy being a media mogul. And you've taken some time, man, to share with us. But I want to start off with something that we were just talking about, what I have appreciated, about our conversations and our dialogue, because you are just such I won't just say a big thinker, you're a deep thinker. And you push the thoughts and opinions of those around you, right? And you are really following up with questions and seeking to understand. Can you just tell me a little bit, like, where did that come from? That's just God given? Like, where has that been? Have you always been that way?
That's so interesting. I don't know if I can tell you where it came from, but what I can say is what is core to me is two things. I want to be understood, right? I believe that I've walked a journey that no one, like, we're all an N of one, right?
Yeah.
We're all an individual snowflake. I've walked a journey that others haven't walked. And so I'm desperate to be understood, not by anybody else's truth, but by my truth. And I think that the reason I then seek to understand other people is, if that's what I want out of life, then I have to give that back, right?
Love it.
And so I work equally as hard to understand people based on their truths and the way that they see the world. There's also a thing, and such a place where I see value in you as like a friend and a brother, which is the way that I process the world, the way that I think is very much through conversation. Right. So, like, I'm the guy who wants to put 10 people in the room, have a conversation, hear all of them say what they say, and then make a decision like,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
Right. And so I value people like you because when you and I are in the same space, you are helping me process, you are helping me think, you are challenging my thoughts. And so I think it's those combination. I want to be understood, and so I seek to understand other people, but also the way that I process through life is through conversation. And so I want to have as many conversations, right, as I can. Last thing I'll say on that is, gone are the days, right now, we talked about this too. So much of life is polarizing because you and I don't agree. We become enemies. And like, I resist that idea. I think my job is to understand people, and if we don't agree, to tolerate their truth, to be comfortable with their truth, but like to never seek agreement, right? The goal is not that you and I have to believe the same thing. The goal is that I need to understand my friend so I can understand his perspective and where he comes from. And if
That's a
I'm lucky,
beautiful
my
statement.
friend feels the same.
That in itself is a deep statement. That you are having the conversation to get people's truth, not to force agreement or alignment between the two.
Facts.
That's an amazing leadership quality. That's clearly why you're CEO of an amazing company. So now this is a new title for you.
Facts.
Can you just shed a little light on your journey, right? Tell us how you get there, because you're a young brother that is has been on top of the media game for a while. So please, just, you don't have to give your resume. I know it's too long. It's too many things. You don't have to do all that. But I would love for you to just share a bit of your journey, because, one, I think it's incredible, but I think it's something that is achievable by a lot of us as well. But yeah, please shed some light on that.
I appreciate it. I'll try to do the fast version, and we can dig where you think it's valuable. growing up as a young kid, I grew up in Denver, Colorado, single parent household. You know, moms was making $18,000 a year. So we were struggling, right? Periods of time where we were homeless, all of that. I get jumped by Crips when I'm in sixth, seventh grade. My mom sends me to my father's house and says, "You're never coming back here." That's the first big move. By the
Wow.
time I come back, we're in the suburbs. My neighbors are no longer gang members, etc. They're now doctors and lawyers. I had been in gifted and talented. I had skipped grades, but my everything was going like this. Moving to the suburbs changed all of that, right? I'm no
Wow.
longer in survival mode,
Okay.
right? And so now I'm learning. So the first thing I like that taught me was your environment plays such a major role in who you are and who you become. My mom fundamentally changed my life by shifting my environment.
Wow.
From there, I end up at Duke University. Always been good at school, but never passionate or excited about anything. And so the first time I become passionate about something, second semester, senior year, I'm in a marketing class. Real story, I never bought books in my entire college career. Probably my freshman year, first semester, I bought every book. After that, never bought a book again. It was the first time I wanted to read the books. I wanted to study, right?
Okay.
I believe that you have to follow the breadcrumbs that God gives you. And that was a major breadcrumb for me. And so now all of a sudden I want to do marketing. So I'm researching marketing, realizing that everybody who's a chief marketing officer at the companies I want to work at has an MBA. And so an MBA becomes the thing that I want to get. I'm 21, senior year at Duke University, and you can't get your MBA that early. And so I end up going to work at Fuqua School of Business, which is Duke's business school.
Yep.
It gave me an opportunity to do two things: start taking business school classes. I can sit in the back and watch and consume, and at the same time, my aunts, my mentors are at the admissions office, so I'm learning
wow.
how I can get into business school at a young age, right? End up getting into Stanford, go there 2 years later at the age of 23, thinking I want to do marketing. Stanford puts that entrepreneurial bug in me. You can't go to Stanford and not come out thinking you want to start the next Facebook, right?
Yeah.
So I leave Stanford having my own startup invested by Google, Yahoo, one of the top cats at eBay, which later failed. And then but I was spending my time at Johnson & Johnson doing global marketing.
Okay.
Quickly realized that I don't want to be a CMO in that environment. They feel like filters, right? Like my job was to be a really good filter. The agency brings me 10 ideas. My job is to filter it down to 3, make them a little bit better, and then get the CEO or CMO to approve. I didn't want that life. I wanted to be on the job, on the side of the makers, the creators, the thinkers. And so I jumped to the agency world. It was my first time going to a Black-owned company.
Yeah.
I worked for Don Coleman at Global Hue.
Legend.
Legend. It was like, what's the Eddie Murphy?
Boomerang. Absolutely.
But it's multicultural, right? So like you in the black spot, cats are listening to Biggie and Pac, and like, you know, it's popping. Then you go, like, you just walk 15 feet to the Latinx spot, they salsa and dancing. Like, it was something I'd never seen before. Young, multicultural, and it was so amazing what he built there. So amazing.
Wow.
So anyways, I do that for a little while. Get tired of making 30-second spots because no one wants to watch 30-second commercials, right? And so the only win there is the Super Bowl spot. That becomes less exciting to me. We enter the world of branded entertainment. We make a mini movie with Lenny Kravitz. Before Beats by Dre was a real thing, we put Beats by Dre speakers in Chrysler, Dodges, Fiats.
Wow.
Promoted them through music videos. 50 Cent, Eminem, Carly Rae Jepsen, will.i.am, and like I fall in love with this idea of branded entertainment. And so I then jumped to the media side because now I want to create content that the world chooses to consume, but has the brand message embedded in it. And so I jumped to Urban One thinking I'm going there to start an agency. I also find out I run cross-platform sales. So I'm running TV, radio, digital, bundled sales. I do that for a little while, and then they give me the digital media group, the digital publishing group. So I'm grateful for Kathy Hughes and Alfred. Nobody was going to give a young 30-something-year-old dude a digital media company who knew nothing about digital.
Yeah.
Right? But they did. And so I did that for a while. We had a phenomenal run. And then from there, last year, I made the jump and came to Revolt, which is my first time running a cable network. But we're making into so much more than just a cable network.
I want to get into your vision for Revolt, but I think we're going to touch on that. What I first want to get into is your passion for storytelling, and especially within the Black community, right, and controlling that narrative. Um, there's that the Plato quote, right? Those who tell stories rule society,
Mm-hmm.
and it's often that we don't get a chance to control our stories,
Facts.
right, and our narrative, or um, they're shown through one platform, right, and one group gets to control what that
Facts.
is. Um, can you touch on just your passion for that? Because that's
Yeah.
another thing that we've talked a lot about, um, and getting the narrative of Black people out, and this is a part of it. And so, thank you for again taking some time to be
Of
on
course,
a
Ken.
Young Brothers, newly minted podcast yourself. So, but please shed some light on that.
Yeah, so you talked about the Plato quote. The quote that I use all of the time is this African proverb that says, "Until the lion learns to tell his own story, the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter." Right? That
Mm,
idea that the person in charge will always make themselves the victor. Right? In truth, the lion is way stronger than the hunter, right?
yeah.
But because they don't have the power in storytelling, the hunter wins. I believe that is our truth as Black people. For centuries, we have been with our story in the hands of other people. For centuries, we've been savages, we've been beasts, we've been Aunt Jemima, we've been like all of
Yeah.
these things, right? And so, we're in one of the biggest fights for Black liberation that we've ever seen. And my core position is if storytelling, they're savages, they're beasts, they're monsters, got us into this mess, then storytelling is going to be critical to getting us out of the mess. And in order to do that, you have to put the power of storytelling back into the community who's telling the story, right? Like, I
Whew,
believe that
that's a
white people
line.
would be very uncomfortable if 99% of the stories that were told about white people came out of BET, right? I'm uncomfortable with 99% of our stories
Yeah.
being told by people who are greenlighting ideas that are not authentic to our truth. There's a bunch of dope creators who are getting great stories being told, but I'm also uncomfortable with the impact of folks at white owned companies changing our story into something that they're comfortable with, into something that fits their narrative. And so I'm just big on us owning our own story and owning our own narrative. And I think it's going to be critical into us getting out of the mess that we're in right now.
And it's so important because what you're getting at too on that is a chance to tell our version of the truth,
Facts.
right? And sometimes it's in the eye of the beholder, right? And all these various sayings, but I think it's important to have the variety of discussions and representation out there,
That's
not
right.
only from the Revolts of the world or the Issa Rays of the world, et cetera, but let's keep it going, right? Let's start to democratize that because there's so many stories that can be told from so many
Facts.
different perspectives that should be shared. So,
Facts.
so that leads us into, I mean, naturally, what's your vision for Revolt, right? I mean, uh, I know I've been a fan. I've been just since his launch, right? I mean, just
Mm.
alone, right? When Diddy, pushed that out because that's such a big thing to hear somebody Black who has dominated hip hop for so long
Mm.
now making his way into a true media mogul, right? In this space, it's bold, it's
Mm-hmm.
extremely courageous, um, and now he turns the keys over to you. So now it's your vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the
Mm-hmm.
baton.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you taking it? What are you aiming for?
Man, our dreams are big, and we're in a moment where, as Black people, we have to dream big. So I'll say it like this, right? In an era where Black culture is driving commerce,
Mm,
content, and global culture, Black owned media is virtually like almost extinct. We don't exist,
mm.
right? And that's because of all the things that we know. Systemic racism plays a major part in every industry. The way it shows up in media is a couple of ways. One, right now, Black owned media makes up 1% of the advertising marketplace. We get 1% of the revenue, we make up 1% of the supply. Again, which means we're basically extinct. How is it that our stories, from sports to entertainment, movies, film, just look at the freaking memes people are
Yeah,
sharing on social media, right?
yeah.
We are powering 20, 30, 40, 50%, 80% of it, but Black owned media only gets 1%.
That's a Nielsen stat, right? I mean, that's what's crazy. Even as you're saying it out loud, it's got my brain running because I think it was Nielsen who put out a couple years ago that Black consumers drive or influence 80% of
That's
purchase
exactly right.
decisions.
That's exactly
Yet
right.
you're saying 1% of the media distribution is, that's
That's
mind-boggling.
that's exactly right.
It's
And so
mind-boggling.
what that means is the people who are responsible for the majority of Black storytelling don't look like us. The people who extract value out of the marketplace from Black storytelling don't look like us, and that is problematic. And so, based on that, the ambition of Revolt is to build the world's first Black owned media company at scale, but the way that we would say it is the largest Black owned media company. We believe there needs to be a Black owned Disney,
Yeah.
$65 billion. We believe there needs to be a Black owned Viacom, $25 billion. Today, I'll give you quick stats. So, the largest Black owned media company that I know right now, $400 million, and they're publicly traded, right? Yep. Even if you, and it's not a population thing, because a lot of people will say, oh, it's because Black people are a smaller percentage of the population. If you look at our Latin brothers and sisters, Univision, $3 billion. How is it that we're 14% of the population? They're 15, 16% of the population. Yet we're 300, 400 million, and they're 10x, 3 to 4. Again, you can identify systemic racism, right? Yeah. And everything. And so we believe that the world needs a Black-owned media company that is empowering Black artists and creators to tell our stories. And so that's the ambition of Revolt. That's what we're trying to build. And like the last thing I'll say is people think we want handouts. I'm like, we don't want a handout. We here to compete. Yeah. I'm just saying that the way y'all doing it right now, we can't compete fairly. Put my team against yours with the same amount of resources, and let's see who comes out winning. I'm gonna bet on my team all day.
You know, it was always interesting for me when I was over at P&G and you know, a young Thai brand manager. I'm old enough now, and this is kind of aging myself, but you know, at one point there were multiple curves, right? So you could buy on what was called the general market curve, which is AKA the white curve. You'd buy on the AA curve, right? The African American curve. You would buy on the US Hispanic curve. Univision was kind of on that US Hispanic curve, right? You had the Revolts, the BETs, blah, 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 right? That were on this AA curve, and then everything else. And what was interesting is at a certain point, it all collapsed and it became this like multicultural curve. And I feel like that was when the Univisions of the world really accelerated. Their sales teams were around often. So as you're shaping kind of this narrative and getting the attention back, and I think what you've been doing publicly, what Diddy's doing, right? And there's a lot of brother that owns the Weather Channel, Byron Allen, right? Some of these garnering a lot of attention and pointing out all the things that are wrong. How are you then structuring the organization, right? Because I think that's an important thing to touch on, right? Because as a CEO, you don't always get to make all the cool shows. You get to decide probably which ones go out, but you're managing this infrastructure and ecosystem. So how are you thinking about resourcing it and staffing it to make this change?
Yeah, two things. The first thing I just want to point to first, because it's going to help inform this, is we have a different development model.
Okay.
So most people go and try to find a hit show. And then once they find that hit show, they try to put talent in it to make it a little bit bigger, right? We're much more of like a music label, right?
Okay.
We believe that the future of media is influencer, that people care way more about Cardi B and Will Smith than they will ever care about ABC or BET, right? That the engagement on Cardi B and Will Smith's media platforms are way bigger than they're ever going to be on BET and ABC. And so we're betting on the talent, right?
Got it.
We find the talent with large, engaged audiences, and then go in the lab into the studio with them and collaborate and create shows together. So then now we go to, well, then what does the infrastructure look like? Part of the reason we're doing so well is because we have a young brother, Dion. Dion is Puff's head of brand and PR, but for us, he functions like an A&R. Okay. Dion got his head to the streets. He's looking for everybody who's getting ready to pop, right? That's critical. So you have that team. Who's the talent that we're going to build around? Dion does a lot of that. Okay. We have an amazing young woman named Sharice, who's our head of production, who, if you tell Sharice, go tackle that mountain, Sharice gonna tackle that mountain early, on time, and under budget, right? She delivers all day, which you need at a Black company because, again, we're a little shorter on resources than everybody else. And then on the third side, we have this young, incredible brother named Dunny,
Okay.
Dunny functions as our creative director, and a lot of media companies, the creative lead is like the head of creative services. They focus on graphics, package. Like no, like our system is different. Dunny is lighting, location, vibe. Like when you see a Revolt piece of content, that's Dunny, right?
Okay.
And so what I would say is that most companies, you maybe have like a head of programming and they run like we are closer to an agency where it's like,
Got
all
it.
right, we have a team, the A&R who's got talent, the creative director who's figuring out how this stuff looks like and how it fits the vibe, and then the producer who's figuring out how we execute, get it done, and make it, get it done flawlessly. That is our core structure, and I don't think that structure exists in most media companies.
No, I've never heard that before, and I think it's so one, there's a shift, right? So you were core TV, and now you are very much digital.
Digital first, absolutely.
But you've also talked about plans to expand even beyond that, right? Can you shed any light on now? Don't say nothing confidential. Look, it's public. I don't want nobody to get in trouble, y'all. But whatever you can share, I would love to hear.
Yeah, so we're look, a year ago, people knew Revolt as a cable network, right? And anybody who knows that industry knows that that industry is crashing with cord cutters, cord nevers, etc. And so that's a dangerous place to live and be anchored.
Yeah.
And so we're very much focused on being digital forward. What that means is on our own native channels, the things that we own, we are building out our digital audience. So in the next few months, you'll see us launch all of our connected TV apps will be on Roku, Apple, those types of things. You'll see us launch mobile apps, iOS, Android, those types of things. Again, like creating our first kind of like AVOD products. So that's on the native channels. But what I would say is bigger than that is what we are telling people is what is important about Revolt is not our format, cable network. What's important about Revolt is our lens and our perspective. Ooh. And there's a lot of people who need that lens and our perspective. So yes, you'll see it on our owned and operated channels, which are expanding into digital. But we also just launched a branded content studio who's lending our lens and perspective to advertisers, right? We just did a super dope campaign with Adidas. Then the other one is the world that's growing is the virtual MVPDs, the streamers, the Netflix, the Hulus, the Peacocks, etc. They also need our lens. We fundamentally believe that in the same way that hip hop has dominated the audio world, it will dominate the video world, which means if you're Netflix, you need us. If you're Hulu, you need us. If you're Peacock, you need us. And so I can't be only obsessed with creating with my own native channels. Now I'm obsessed with creating for myself, creating for brands, and creating for all the streamers and distributors that exist out there.
This is beautiful because one, I think a couple things that jump out to me. One is the fact that I've said for a long time, right? The greatest asset within the Black community is our ability to influence. It's our influence, and what you're doing is shaping and taking our influence and monetizing it across a variety of channels.
That's right.
The other thing that I think I've learned a ton from you, and it goes into your leadership style, which is where my question is going to be. But I think what's interesting about what you talk about is the focus of the superpower of Revolt. And what you're saying is it's about the lens.
That's right.
It's the eye and the perspective, because that as your IP allows you then to create a myriad of one, intellectual property, right, and spinoffs, but also increase value, revenue, shareholder return.
That's right.
But what I want you to talk about is what's your superpower. Now I know what I think, and I'm not going to share, but I want to hear from you because you've come into this role, and it's always difficult. One, to just come into a CEO seat. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations, a lot of ambiguity sometimes in that. But now coming into one where it's a Diddy, ecosystem, and he's such a personality, such a figure, such a force culturally, where you've now taken the reins of something. Shed a little light, because there's a line that I hope you say, and if you don't, I'm gonna say it for you because I wrote it down and had to tell my team. So that's the hint. Okay. But please talk about your leadership style and your superpower.
Copy. I might miss the line, but maybe I won't actually. We'll see. My superpower, I believe, is leadership. And core to that is I believe that leadership is about fellowship. A lot of people want the title to say, oh, I'm a leader. I think you can lead from anywhere within an organization if you can build fellowship. You don't have to be the CEO to lead, right? So I think leadership is my core gift, and I'll tell you this story because someone told it to me and I was like resisted at first. Um, Somebody in the company was like, you know what? You're like Tom Brady. I clearly resisted any connection to what that stood for. But what he said is, um, nobody was gonna go to Tampa Bay if it wasn't for Tom Brady. Tom Brady's the one that got all of those folks who said, you know what, I'm coming out of retirement for Tom. Oh, you know what? I'm not messing with this in general, but you know what? I'll do it for Tom, right?
Yeah.
Tom was able to build the team. Tom can't win the Super Bowl by himself. He can't do, but what he was able to do was attract giants to come play with him because they trusted his leadership and they were willing to follow. And then he led them in the direction. That's what my gift is. I am not, a lot of people will probably see me as like a marketer and think I go deep. I don't know that I go deep in anything in this moment. What I go deep in is leadership, uplifting and empowering like dope leaders, giving black and brown leaders shots they would have never ever gotten at any other company, right? Seeing them and saying, you know what? At that white company, they didn't see your value, but here we do. And I'm going to give you a platform and an opportunity to shine. I'm not a micromanager by any reason. I think some people might get frustrated by that, but I think that black people have gotten so few shots to see what their own genius does inside of corporate America. I'm unwilling to squish them anymore. And so what I say I do is I build rock star teams that do rock star things. I set vision, I set strategy, and then I say, let's go get it. Right?
Well, I will say you said it, but you said it different. I'm going to tell you
Okay.
how you said it to me at happy hour one day. Right? You said, I control and I issue out the what and the why.
Oh yeah. Facts.
And I want my team to focus on the how.
Facts.
And you don't want to get into the how because if you do, then you're doing their job. And I think that speaks to your micromanaging or the fact that you don't micromanage. That's right. Excuse me. But I think now hearing how you just explained it, it's bigger than that. You're wanting people to prove their abilities. You want to actually give them a chance.
Oh, 1,000%.
And so it's less of you just saying, oh, I want to be hands off, or there's an amazing book called The Lazy CEO. You're not doing it from that. It's really you're saying you haven't been allowed or been free to do this.
Man.
Go shine.
Oh man, yes.
Go shine. It's actually you're pushing confidence into them and forcing them to take the reins.
1,000%.
That's amazing, and it's extremely empowering.
They may say it differently, but if you were to ask me my intention all day long, right? So I graduated from Stanford at 25. I went to Global Hue probably at 26. At 26, I was running my first brand. I was running Navy. By 27, I was running, at the time, Global Hue lost a key leader. And so they promoted all of their superstar supervisors to director. I was a supervisor. They double promoted me to group account director.
Wow.
So I got promoted 2 levels, and now I'm running multiple business. I got promoted every year when I was at Global Hue, right? Again, I talked about Alfred and Kathy. They gave me a digital media business, and I knew nothing about it. I have been able to achieve what I've been able to achieve because black leaders and black CEOs said, oh, young man, you have potential. Go get it. And I failed a lot along the way, but I got to see what my ideas did. I got to see the potency. I got to see that. I got to see the brilliance. And so now I'm trying to give that back to other people. Right?
What did those failures do for you, right? Because, I mean, you inherently have to be extremely just resilient. Right?
Yeah.
You have to have grit. Is that from the upbringing, right? Is that...
For sure. I mean, yes, 1,000% grit, upgrading, again, homeless, single mom, all of those things. But I see it differently. No failures and no's are the path to yes and winning. And so I'm actually like
Woo.
I use photography as an idea. Like
That's a clip right there. We're gonna have to take that one. That became a whole clip.
It's
That
like
was
you need
that was
10
dope.
no's, you need 10 failures to get
Love
to the
that.
yes, right?
Love that.
So I'll tell you how I approach things on my own. So photography. Oh, I want to be a good photographer. I know that in order to be a good photographer, I'm going to have to fail 1,000 times. And so I set myself on the path to fail 1,000 times as quickly as possible. Other people will fail 1,000 times in 3 years. I'm trying to fail 1,000 times in 3 months because I believe it's the only path, right? You have to fail and learn and go, oh, that's what happened. Let me try this. I failed and I learned. Oh, that's right. It's the only way for me to figure out like what works and what doesn't work, right? Yeah. So I embrace failure. What I'll say transparently is being a CEO now, failure feels like it's on a bigger stage. Yeah. So there's maybe a little bit of nervousness about that. But outside of that, like I am chasing failure down because I believe it is my only way of getting to greatness.
Well, now you're CEO, you have those failures. You just put a little plausible deniability around you, right? You can put some consultants around so that you can blame them in case. But I think if that got you here, it sounds like you shouldn't change it, which is incredible, that fearlessness. And one thing I've also admired about you is I've never heard you speak of fear. Like there's no hesitancy or waver in you, and in how you speak, how you conduct yourself, personally, professionally, etc. It's an incredible amount of just, I think, inherent confidence that is one of your gifts, and I would add that to your superpower. And I think that makes great leaders, right? That makes people, we want to follow those that are confident. It's hard to follow people that seem unsure.
1,000%.
Because most folks have lots of doubt. There's lots of insecurities, and so we're actually latching on to confidence. 1,000%. And I think you have enough confidence, not arrogance, not ego, but enough confidence to carry a lot of folks. And that organization that you're leading just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger, which is incredible. So I have a question about what is driving you, right? Because now you're CEO, right, which is top of the rung of a notable, recognizable powerhouse, and I know you're focused on growing it. But what's the personal driver, right? Not the business one, all right? You've laid out a very clear vision for Revolt. What's D's? What's yours?
Yeah, so the answer is very easily impact. I'm trying to figure out what story I want to tell to help us get there. I am so driven by creating change and driving change. I was born into a world that I wanted to change for myself and for my family. And every time I reach a new rung on the ladder and my family becomes good, I look at the world and see all of those who aren't. And so I am constantly like just trying to create impact. One of the questions people ask all the time is like, what do you want your legacy to be? Or how do you know, like, what do you want people to say at your funeral? I'm like, I don't want people to say one word about me. I want my story to be told by all of the people that I touched and impact. I want you to tell the story of Nick Robinson, who started out in Detroit, grimy, single mother, and now this man is like running things at X, Y, and Z. I want you to tell the story of Katina. I want you to tell the story of all the people that I had like 2 seconds to impact, and like, let's see what they did. That to me is what motivates me and gets me up every day. Every day I wake up and see Revolt creating change, I'm motivated to keep doing more.
Man, I literally, I have goosebumps as you're talking, because it's so real. Like, bro, that was so much your truth, and we've had a chance to interact with other folks that you've touched, and I think you've seen that in part of my truth, and you actually shared that with me around the first time that we met. And I hadn't even noticed. I wasn't even paying attention to the fact that I was doing that. And I think that's something that has connected us. And I want people to understand, right? That trait that you just described is very entrepreneurial. And you're not the founder of this company, but
Mm.
you are very entrepreneurial.
1,000%.
And I think the concept of driving impact and change and leaving the world better is something that people can do both in companies
Mm-hmm.
and in founding, right, or creating companies.
Mm-hmm.
It's all centered around how do we create impact and leave the world better
That's
and
right.
touch people's lives in more impactful ways. And that is man,
Yeah. Otherwise,
that's
what
an
are we here for?
that's just an incredibly heavy conversation,
Mm.
which I love. One, I do want you to share because you had said it in I actually just want to hear it again. I ain't even
Okay.
gonna lie.
Let's see if I can get there.
On how the first time that we met, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I remember we were down in Tribeca or Financial District or something in New York City, and we have a mutual friend. Shout out to Sharonda,
Sharon
who's
say,
just
hey.
yeah, Sharonda, who's just who's amazing. Um, but you just told me this, right? What, 2 weeks ago maybe, of what I was doing. Can you just share that story?
Yeah.
Because
So by
I
the way,
just
I
want
was
to
gonna
hear it again.
interrupt you. I was gonna interrupt you like 5 minutes ago and tell the story, but it's your platform, and I didn't want to do it. So I'm
No, this platform
grateful.
is for you, but I
I'm
want to hear
grateful that
something.
you gave me the space to do it. Let me start here. What I would say is, in this day and age of Instagram and microwave, everybody wants things faster. Everybody wants to be perceived as something greater than what they might be. We live in a world that's based on style, not substance,
Mm,
right? And so, what attracted me to Keenan was in our first interaction, I saw both style and substance. And the way that I saw substance was there was a young woman who I care enormously about. Again, when I talk about my story, will be to like I would put $1 million on this young woman tomorrow because I
yeah.
believe in her. And but she ain't the easiest like person to mentor or coach, right? She's incredibly brilliant, strong-headed. She's gonna push back all the things that I love about her. And so we happened to be at a bar talking, and I was trying to push her, and you showed up because of Sharonda, which was amazing. And it was like I listened to you talk to her. You showed up in the conversation. I listened to you talk to her for 5 or 10 minutes, and a couple of things happened. You were listening to understand her. You weren't critiquing, valuing. You just were listening to her. That was one. Two, your word, your genius, your wisdom, the ideas and concepts that you were depositing into her were so strong. And they were actually things, I learned concepts from you that day. I don't think I told you that part, but like you were talking about your 1 step manager and your 2 step manager. And like I learned from you. And there was such a confidence. You know how you love people and you're
Mm-hmm.
protective of them? There was such a like I listened to you talk for 10 minutes, and there was such a confidence that I could trust this young woman who I believe the world in with you, that you would give and help groom, and I walked away. I don't do that often. Again, most people are all style, no substance. And so based on that fundamental interaction, I was like, oh yeah, I can build with this dude any day and any time.
And I, one, thank you for sharing that, and one, thank you for telling me that so that
Mm-hmm.
I can learn more about myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important on, again, our journeys of self mastery, right, or
Yeah.
what we're trying to do. All of us are just trying to be our best selves,
Facts.
and there's this idea that we have of ourselves at times, and then there is this truth
Mm-hmm.
that comes out in our actions that sometimes takes someone else to share back with you. And
Okay.
so thank you for one sharing that, because now I'm conscious of it and I really want to continue to do it,
Mm,
and I want to do it more, and
mm,
even I want to do it a little bit better.
mm-hmm.
It was cool because we did get to see her again a couple weeks ago,
Yeah, that was
and
dope.
and she's at a new place and a new job and thriving, and that is part of your legacy. So it's it warms my heart to think that even my 10 minutes of interaction
Yeah.
may have played some role, right?
You were so dope in that moment, brother. You were so dope in that moment. A lot of people miss moment. You were so dope, so spot on in that moment. It was
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
And then just really quickly on this piece of like feedback, right? So all of us have gifts and superpowers. It is much easier to see Keenan who shoots lasers out of his eyeballs than it is for me to see my own self, right? We have an external disposition. It's easier for us to see the gifts in other people. That's why you hear people go, "Oh, that person can sing. I want to sing." No, that's not your gift. You a cherry seed. You're not supposed to be an apple tree. You know what I mean? Like, so it's so hard and difficult to see our own gifts. And so one of the things I love about our relationship as well is this feedback loop, right? When you're a CEO, a lot of people don't give you feedback. And so it's difficult to see what you're doing that is working. And so I'm grateful that not only could you deposit in her life, but you deposited into my life in that way. And I'm grateful that I get the honor of being able to do the same for you.
You are, I mean, you dropped so many gems. And I was so excited to get you on just to share, and you've already been dropping them. But I think it's again, your passion and your truth and your comfort and your honesty and how you approach things. And I've had a chance to watch you interact with influencers and celebrities and you have the same demeanor. You find the humanity in all of us, right? And in that truth. And that's what you touched on at the beginning. And this has been a thread that you've carried on with, is that you seek to find the humanity in others. And in that process, you are exposing the humanity in you, right? And so when I sit across from you, I am not only sitting, across from the CEO of Revolt, but I'm sitting next to you as like my brother, and like you as a Black man, as a husband, as a son, as a CEO, as a mentor, as a mentee, as a friend. You bring all of that to the table, and I think that is absolutely part of that superpower of why people follow you. There's that, it's almost an aspect of vulnerability that you're sharing within that. And I can't remember, I wish I could. We had a conversation a little bit about vulnerability right before. And that,
because I think I'm failing at it.
And I would say the absolute opposite. I would say the absolute opposite. You display it in your way, right? You display it in your desire to understand and not persuade people. Your goal isn't persuasion. Your goal is truth. And that's wild, because right, most of us as we interact, we're trying to persuade, and it's usually based off of a form of insecurity, right? We're looking for people to validate what we're saying, what we're doing, and tell us it's right, or give us an attaboy or whatever that is, right, to make us feel good. And you're like, no, I'm not looking for any of that. I'm just looking for the truth. Like, just here's my truth, what's yours? Like, and I just want to be understood. To me, there's inherent vulnerability in that, because you have to be so courageous to get to that. So yeah, no, man, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one, and to stick with the theme, like, well, shit, I think it's so cool that you conduct yourself in that, and consistently. So it's not, this isn't fake. Like, you really are doing it.
I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to be the freest version of myself.
Man, you free as hell. When I watch you're free. It's like I watch your Instagram, and you're swimming, you're getting your workout in. You have this this balance. So actually, I would love you to shed some light on that, because that's something that I know I can learn from you, is how you approach balance in your schedule, right? Of in being a husband, being a friend, right? Being an athlete, being a CEO, and you're always so present in every moment. Right. When you said, hey, absolutely, I'll do this podcast. I'm down. I'll come through. It was like in the calendar. You were here. You showed up, and you were locked in. Right. There's no distraction. I would be willing to bet you probably got 100 messages since we've started. You're not checking phones. You are here in the moment. How are you balancing all of this? Right. Because I never say work-life balance, right? I always say rhythm, right? There's a
Mm.
rhythm of your life,
I definitely live
right?
by a
Because
rhythm.
balance
I
is like
love
this
that.
idea
Oh,
of
I
like
love that.
equality and shit. Like
Oh, I
it's
love
like
that.
it's made up, right?
Oh, I love that.
So describe your rhythm, right, and how you have established that.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so two things. One, uh, fresh out of business school, working at Johnson and Johnson, I'm sitting with the VP of Ethicon, and I ask him, "What's the hardest part of your job?" And he says, "Being present in the moment.
Wow.
That the manufacturing plant is on fire, the lawyers won't let me push my drug through, and I walk into a marketing meeting and they don't give a damn about any of that
Mm.
because their job is none of that. And the hardest part of my job is figuring out how to give those people on the other side of me what they deserve and what they need." And as a young 25, 26, it felt like the stupidest thing on earth. I was like, that's the hardest part of your job. Oh, I got this. I'm ready to be a VP, right? The more I took more responsibility in companies, the more I understood. And I never lost track of that conversation.
Wow.
And so now I am determined that when people come into my office, when people want to have like I am determined to be present and to give them what they deserve, right? So that's one on that piece. In terms of the rhythm, I love that idea. What I'll say is I failed miserably in my 20s and probably most of my 30s. And probably the idea that gets me there is like, at this age, I recognize everything comes at a cost. People are like, people see you on the mountaintop, they don't see the climb, right?
Yeah.
Nobody gonna talk about the fact that Detavio doesn't sleep through most nights. No one's gonna talk about Detavio's back issues, and even the fact that I'm sitting here this long is like amazing to me. Like I'm
Wow.
impressing myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because of what I did with on it. Like no one's gonna talk about those things. And so what happened was I continued to achieve, and I continued to then start to see all of the cost that came that was associated with it. And so now as a freer person, I want to make decisions about the cost I'm willing to bear in exchange for what I get, right? And so what that means is there's a certain amount of time I'm willing to get. I want to give it all. I want to have impact. I want to do all of that, but I recognize it comes at a cost. And so I'm also equally as passionate about making sure I'm okay along the way. So what I do very well is put things on autopilot. I have date night with my wife every Wednesday on autopilot. I have massages, therapy every Tuesday on autopilot. I have acupuncture every Saturday on right. Like at this point in time, I've learned the things that allow me to be healthy and doing what I'm doing, and I put those things on autopilot, and I don't miss them for anything. Because if I miss them, the cost becomes too great for what I'm willing to bear, and I'm not trying to do that anymore.
Wow. So part of the aspect of self-mastery that I've been pushed on and my mentors have hit me with is determining my own personal operating model. And it's so cool that you just right out the gate, like you went into your operating model. Like, here are the things that you will not compromise on because they allow you to be at your best.
1000%.
And it's just like, bop, bop, bop. And they're in, and you've then put them on autopilot so that you don't ever miss them.
Ever. If you care about
Wow.
impact, then you do everything you can to protect the impact that you can make.
Yeah.
And part of that is taking care of ourselves, right? Can't pour from an empty cup. I poured from an empty cup for a very long time. It doesn't work. You can't.
Yeah, it's like don't allow yourself an opportunity to miss the things that are too important.
That's right.
Right. So you've locked them in.
1000%.
They're permanent fixtures in your model.
My mom knows if we don't talk all week, she gonna get a call every Tuesday morning around about 7, 8. Like people know.
No matter what.
Yeah. Like
that's her time. That's it.
That's the way. Because otherwise, there's so many things that I lose track. Right.
Yeah.
No, the stuff that matters, it's not an option.
That is awesome. The other thing that I love that you said is, one, you pulled out a line from a boss that you had when you were 25 years old. And it's so crazy how we remember and we retain these lessons. And that's one of my hopes for, this series, right? And what we're doing, because I have a lot of those as well, right? excuse me, I remember so many of these messages and these lines from mentors, bosses, friends. Like, I've locked in when you told me, I am a what and a why guy. I'm not the how person right now. I will remember that and repeat it and recite it for the rest of my career and the rest of my days. And those lines, those lessons are important. And I think that's what this is, right? Is our ability to collectively learn, right? And build these ecosystems of impact and greatness. And on that, I want to just say thank you for taking this time and sharing your lessons and your journey. But also in this, I want to give a chance. Is there anything else you want to share? Because I'm gonna take all the nuggets we can get from you. These helicopters are not trying to let me be great, but we rolling through it. Like we said, we at the house, y'all.
That's it. That's
LA
it.
is wild right now.
That's
But
it.
is there anything that you want to share?
uh,
Just as a final note, because I always
yeah.
say this is about you and your truth. And we're honored, and I am so grateful that you would share your truth. So I have to make sure that you have the final word.
I appreciate that. I'm probably gonna try to drop 3 as quickly as possible, just because.
Threes are good.
Okay. My first one is, long time ago I wrote a book, Exists No More: The Art of Squeezing the Most Out of Life. And if I could change the title of that book, I think like the first tier was called Unleash Your Magic. And probably if I could change the title of this book today, I'd change it to Unleash Your Magic, because at this point in time, I've realized that the most powerful thing I can do is to understand that what God put inside of me was a cherry tree. And the thing that I can do to be my best self, I'm a cherry seed, is to grow into the biggest, most beautiful cherry tree possible. Not a banana, however bananas grow, not however apples grow, not right. Like this idea that we have to be less externally focused and more internally focused on our gifts, our passions, our talents. This whole thing is about self mastery. Um, Nobody hires for weaknesses. Everybody hires for mastery. The only place you get mastery is in the places where you are designed to be great.
Oof.
And so, probably point number one is like, we should all make sure we are doing the work to understand where we were designed to be great. A bumblebee has furry coat and wings because it was designed to take pollen from one plant to another. That's its greatness. We have to figure out, we have to do the same work for ourselves. So that would be one. Number two is a large part of how I've gotten to where I am. Like, I have this idea, train on Krypton, play on Earth, which is like a Superman analogy. This idea that Superman was like an incredible being, but on Krypton, like, it was a planet of incredible beings. Like, everybody was incredible, right? Superman trained with the best.
Mm.
But then he came to Earth, where we like, yo, this bro flying. He's shooting lasers out his eyes.
He's picking up everything.
You know what I mean? So like, this idea that like we should train with the best, but we should deposit ourselves in the spaces where we are truly seen as superhuman, where we take those same gifts that we just talked about,
Wow.
and we deposit them in a place where we look amazing, right? You don't want to be a B player amongst A's. You want to be an A player amongst B's. And that only happens with mastery. That only happens if you train with the best and then go play with folks where you're the beast. That would be it. Maybe my third one, which is not what I was gonna say, is just the importance of faith. Look, I can't talk to who people believe in, but what I will say is the idea that you believe in something bigger than yourself, greater than yourself, the idea that you believe, I can't tell you how many days I probably would not have gotten out of bed if I thought it was all about me or it was all dependent on me. I'm very big on controlling my own controllables, but so many days where I just had to give it up and be like, God, I'm about to be on this faith walk.
Yeah.
Because if it's up to me and what I see and what it can't happen.
Yeah.
And so we need to be about we need to be about understanding our unique gifts and our unique design. We need to train with the people who can help make those gifts better, but then go deploy them in spaces where they're truly special and differentiating. And then we have to recognize and understand that there's a greater force and being. And if we can tap into that and take that faith walk, then I think maybe that is where we get the true mastery, right? Oh, you know what? The last one I was gonna say was really about you.
Oh,
The
we getting a
last
bonus. We get number 4, y'all, because those
number
3 were
four is like
incredible.
again, like I am blessed in that while I didn't grow up around, a bunch of we always grow up around greatness. It's a great potential, but because of life, people don't get to see that full potential. From college, I pledged Duke. I pledged Kappa at Duke. Really amazing. I'm surrounded by really incredible human beings. And I continue to this day, like we said the other day, I don't need any new friends, only new family. And Keenan, you are such amazing family. It is such an
Wow.
honor to be with you on this podcast in the beginning. But I believe in you as a human. I believe in you as a leader. I believe in you as a man. And I'm just excited about our relationship and how we build. And we're exploring things, and they may happen today or it may not. But I fundamentally believe in this moment that you and I have connection for a reason. And so maybe my point 4 is like, bruh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to see where this podcast goes, but more importantly, I'm excited to see where we go as brothers, as family, as friends, all of that. So, anyways, thank you, King. Great to be
Wow. Thank you. Y'all, you guys got a treat today. That was beautiful. All the way down to the last words. So
here.
it's a wrap.
Yes,
I got
sir.
nothing.
Let's do
Wow.
it. We good?
Wow. Bruh, you don't have to end it like that. God damn.
I lost it for a second, but I
God
found it.
damn.
I picked it back up.
Did you catch the 4? Lord have mercy.
Yeah,
Bruh.
man, I'm excited. It's so random, right?
Bro, this is how people are CEOs. In case y'all are wondering, like, what the shit really takes. Dude, that was fucking crazy. How you sum that up. That was actually incredible. And that's not even tequila talking. I only had one. I wish it was that. Because my reactions would have been real reckless. I'd have been out here wild on those. But, man, I don't even know how we cut, like, what the fuck?
I have an idea.
Yeah, thank God.
Sure you do.
Fireworks at the end of each show.
Bro, it was like, what in the fuck? Like, those 4, I mean, each one of those are actually, you literally could do an entire segment on those. Jesus. First off, you got to do more of these.
Hey, bro. Again, we connected now. So
you have to do more content, man. You have to. People need to see
different thought.
Yeah, man. They need to see Black CEOs. Because look, the founder shit is cool, right? Look, and like, I love being a founder, right? I love building from scratch, and not everybody. And I know you've done it from scratch as well.
Failed, but yes.
Not but whatever, right? That, like, not everybody loves that, and wants to do that. And I think we need to see people like you that are in these larger companies, because your ability to drive impact is actually far greater than mine, right? Some of the entrepreneurial piece, it's at times, and I struggle with this, less impact and more wealth. Individually, right? If you get to those liquidity events or whatever. But when you can run these like massive organizations, right, and these companies, and what you're able to do is impact all these lives, right, of your entire organization. Dude, you can impact generations, man, of folks that don't even understand what it is to be a CEO of. Again, right? You can't make Revolt necessarily about you, and I know how you are about that, but like, I don't know, like, they might need like a series just about you talking. Like, I just think it would be valuable for you to drop this. Like, the fuck?
Can I do it here?
Dude, the culture needs that. The culture really needs that.
Let's
Like,
do it at Keenan's crib.
yo, you could do it here. Absolutely. Look, you can help pay this note.
Right,
Shit.
right, right.
Put
'Cause I'm
some
just-
on
I'm
it. I
just
need
sure-
all the help I can get.
Yeah,
Nah.
I'm sure a bunch of it is the business, right? Because
but
you
like-
running the whole business out of here. This
Yeah,
is
this
dope.
is true.
Yeah.
This is true. But I mean, like, I don't know, like how you felt, Scott, with some of that. Like, we don't get to see a lot of, bro. Like, we don't, like, people don't see and hear from Black CEOs, and even the ones that, especially the ones that are like in the Fortune 5, which is like not many, right? Well, we got 2, 3,
exactly,
whatever.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yo, that's it, and it's so structured. Like, that's what we were talking about downstairs. Is like for them to see you like in your hoodie and hat on, and it's like, nah, man, this brother runs a fucking media empire. Like,
And I tell
what?
you, the problem is because, right, again, you and I like come from like a serial entrepreneur work. I always feel like anybody can be CEO. That's my like.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't. For some reason, I haven't put enough value on the CEO tag yet because like I've been CEO. I just started a company and called myself the CEO.
Yeah, but
Right?
it's the job. But most people aren't CEOs, right? Like most
Like
people
real
are.
CEOs. That's fact. I
Yeah,
wasn't a
most
real
people
CEO.
are. You can be a founder, right, and not a CEO.
Right. That's fair.
Because
That's real.
that's
real.
an executive,
Yeah,
right?
that's real.
And
You got to build a business to be a CEO.
well, there's a polish, but there's also the ability of what you just described as your superpower, right? Which is followship, right? Followership, as you described it, because people want to follow you. Like, that's important. But I think the other role, and we didn't even hit on that, but is what you have to do externally, right, with your shareholders and how you have to manage that. Which maybe, we might need to do a follow-up on that one, because that in itself, especially once you finish this wave of the process that you're at, because you've raised money before, but like, hey man, this shit's always like, where you have to cast that vision, and you were so eloquent in how you describe that, which that was a fucking bar. I mean, you were like, our lens is the
not the format, it's the lens and the perspective.
Not the format, it's the lens.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing when I came in. Why are y'all a cable network? We're not.
Bruh.
That's like the biggest shift we're making.
But like, I mean, I don't know, Luigi. This is I think why I'm so excited about this though, right? It's like getting people's truth out, and there is this thread. Like, I'm so fixated on this like self-mastery piece. And you said it in several different brilliant ways, like throughout that whole episode. But it's like, man, that's really what it takes, is like digging down deep and like loving ourselves, owning who we are, right, and like illustrating that. It was funny because Keys was talking about how he has to learn like discomfort, right? So like he forces himself to be uncomfortable. I used to say that, like, it was the story of the lobster, right? You have to get uncomfortable to grow. And
facts.
And that's, you said they're like similar things that have been said but different. And it's just like the fact that we've so far had 3 different brothers, leaders, right, with actually different backgrounds, different socioeconomic status, whatever, all these different things, and yet there's a thread within the success.
Well, that's a book for you at some point in time,
bro. I mean, well, shit, I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch all of these again, and I probably will write a book on y'all's stories.
It's a book
Holy
at some point
hell,
in time.
man, Jesus.
That's a book.
And sorry for holding you on your back. How is your back doing?
It's actually
completely
good.
forgot.
So like, I am the work I'm doing is working. I sat for 4 hours on Sunday. Wow. And I was personally thrilled, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, I'm doing real work. Also, this helps, like, being able to put my feet up. So
yeah.
I'm good.
And the swim, is that part of the swimming?
Swimming, massages, that routine.
Yeah.
It's super helpful. It's super helpful.
I was a little disappointed in the pool. I thought, so it's funny, right? When we got it, it was all remote. So I had like my sister check it out, and I had all these people.
Got it.
Because just COVID and just the spirit of getting out. And I thought it was wide enough. It's not quite wide enough for me.
Oh no.
Yeah, like it's like just a couple inches shy,
Oh, that's
and
heartbreaking.
I can't freestyle because
Oh,
I've
that's
had my shoulder surgeries.
heartbreaking.
So I breaststroke,
Yep.
right?
Yep. I do
And
breaststroke
it's
every day.
not quite wide enough. Like I
Yeah.
just hit the sides, so I bought the little kickboards so that I can just get in and just kick back and forth. So it's actually a
that'd be
great.
heartbreaking for me, bro.
Yeah, it was. If I could freestyle, it'd be perfect.
Yeah.
But
because it's perfect. That's what like
literally,
perfect strip.
it's a
Yeah.
pool length, 70
Yeah.
feet. It's like just what you need. I actually can't freestyle.
Oh,
like I
that's
can't get my shoulders
heartbreaking.
over. Now, hopefully, I don't know. Now my boy's in town. We getting real training in.
Oh,
and,
wait. When you say he's in town,
Well, he moved. He just moved.
God.
Literally, what, last week?
Oh,
Saturday. Yeah.
Welcome, brother. Where do you live?
Right across the way in West Hollywood.
Oh, dope.
Right off of Santa Monica.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
he just
dope,
moved.
man.
So, yeah, now we going to that.
That's dope.
The what do we go? Golds. We go to the Golds right there in Hollywood.
Gym?
Yeah, Golds Gym. So that's been good just for me to get back in a routine.
Yeah.
'Cause my quarantine 10 turned into quarantine 25. I don't know. Shit slipped. It was a very, very dangerous pathway I've been on. So I gotta do something. But
I'm
yeah.
hype he's here. Like I have a very similar thing. So I moved here in May, and one of my best friends moved here in June. And then I hired him immediately, so now we work
Hell
together.
yeah.
It's like I need my own people inside.
Facts.
Come on in, right? Like
Trusted
it's good to
counsel.
have. Like that's it. That's exactly it. That's it. So I'm glad you have that support. That's dope.
We gotta talk about that one too one day, man. On hiring friends. That has not gone well for me.
There's probably I don't know if there's another. I honestly
like,
don't know if there's another friend I would have hired.
Okay,
Meaning
okay.
He might be the only
all right.
friend that I would have hired.
Yeah, that shit.
No.
Yeah.
Like I've hired my wife's friends. I've hired people I was not. None of those things have worked.
No, it was all trauma for me. That shit was fucked up.
None of those things have worked. Nah.
In fact, none of those people do I talk to
ever anymore.
Yeah, like it went all the way left.
Yeah.
And I actually,
it's easy to see.
It took me a while. Like I used to think it was. I thought it was me actually, because in my journey of self mastery, like I'm super critical on myself. Like I analyze everything, every conversation, every move. Like I think I get it from like West Point, the fucking after action reviews and shit. You know, like every time you do a mission, right? You gotta like they make us fucking sit down in a fucking fire and like talk about, well, how did that go? But that habit, it's like stuck with me. So I'll finish meetings and I'm like, that could have been better, and I like jot a note. So I thought this whole thing, I was like, man, maybe I'm just fucked up. Like I don't know, like is it my ego? You know, blah blah blah. And I realized it wasn't my ego actually at all. It was how people started to perceive the title in the role. So it shifted in their mind. And then it was the idea that they now are dependent on me for their livelihood. And it was, they weren't comfortable with relinquishing that power or control to me.
You.
And I was like, this is fucked up. It's like, this is completely messed up. And I'm like, so it ain't me. It's y'all. So now I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
If I can do it, no, I'm trying to think about the way I would probably define my losses. Because people were connected to the top, they wanted some sort of like extra, right? Like more benefit, support, or they walked in with an extra bit of swag because they expected my air cover, which I do have air cover for them. There's no question. But like, you have to play with everybody. You have to play with everybody else, do your job, right? All of those things. And so where things for me have gone wrong is where people weren't standing on their own, right? And they were expecting, because my boy's the president or whatever he is, they expect something different. And it was like, nope. And again, I'm creating a system where I'm trying to give all these people a space to shine, right? So I'm not going to dim their light for you.
Yeah, you got to shine. The fuck?
That's it. That's exactly
Yo,
it.
That's actually some shit work. Because I say it as like, there's one standard. Like, you got to meet the standard.
One standard.
Like,
that's it.
What I do.
Friend, stranger.
Yeah, like, there's just one standard. Like, you're either great or you're fucking not.
That's
like,
it. That's
but,
it.
like, would I give you extra coaching? Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that would totally happen, but like, you still got to meet the standard.
That's it.
But I think you're right. It's certain people, even if they're your friends, which maybe that means they're not really friends, would expect you to carry them
That's
a
exactly.
bit, and that's when the shit goes wrong. And I've
That's-
had some people think that I would carry them. It's
That's
like,
so where it goes right. So the whole reason I get the global hue is because one of my bros from Duke hires me. He and I got it right. I felt such a accountability for him. I'm his bet, right? If I fail, he looks bad.
that's why
And-
you're fucking CEO now, like,
Right,
because
so-
that's the mentality.
Like
That's
I'm
how
not,
it
I'm
should
not
be.
expecting him to carry me.
You worked
saying-
harder.
Exactly.
Damn, where the
Ex-
fuck is that at?
Exactly. So my boy who I hired,
That's respect.
the reason it works is because I know
He's like that.
all day long.
Hell
he's
yeah.
working. He's trying to keep work off my
Fuck.
plate. He's trying not to make me stress. Like that's where it works, right? If you don't have that, it ain't gonna work.
It ain't go- I mean, honestly, like,
It's
my
not gonna
mom
work.
says that because that's how I think. Like, if I worked for any of y'all, I would go
I'm not letting
so
you fail,
over the top because I'm like, wait, what?
bro. I'm not letting you
You-
fail.
It's the same as like, I couldn't, if I borrow money from you, I have to give you
1000%.
that and then some.
1000%.
And it's like, I told you this date, I got to try to exceed the date. Like, that's just,
That's exactly
dude,
right.
that's just how we were raised.
That's exactly right.
Man, that's crazy, yeah.
So that's how I identify it. If I believe you're gonna come in and have my back, you're gonna work harder.
I love that filter.
Yeah.
I love that
So
filter.
there's very few friends I would hire. Very few.
You know, and that's it's interesting too, because you know, as you, especially as a CEO in such a recognizable company, you know, you have to be careful. So you end up probably surrounding yourself with so many peers for that reason. Like you probably can't hang out with anyone because you have so much kind of power, you know, whether real or perceived, where it's like
I love that
the
distinction.
the relationships become more transactional.
That's exactly right.
So it's like you almost can only get relief when you're around peers.
I love the word relief. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that.
Not like your whole life, and you know you're connected to Puff, right? And so,
Oh my
who
God.
doesn't want to put a business idea in front of Puff? Who doesn't want to put a
Hey
a
man,
show
I
in
got
front-
this idea, my brother. You know, why don't you check this out, man?
like who doesn't want to do that, right? Like
Matter of
Puff-
fact, I got some shit for Puffy written on.
no, that's real. Puff makes every like the reason
Yeah.
I came to Revolt. I was like, black-owned media can't make it. If it can make it, Puff is the only one because he's the magic, right? So everybody wants the magic, right? And so yeah, like, and again, that's probably we've never talked about that, but that's also a reason why I appreciate you. Not that again we can't do things together and make
Yeah.
it work, but it's never been that first.
Yeah.
I never felt like it led with that. I never felt like that was hiding in the back somewhere, like, oh, I can't wait until, right? And so you start filtering that way, right? Like the people, so you use the exact right word.
Yeah,
So
that-
many people are looking for like a transactional moment. And at least in my free time, I don't want none of that. Catch me 9 to 5. but,
And I'm
like,
cool. Like, you know what? Like, I'm okay with the transaction, but be transparent about it. Like, that would
Mhm.
really piss me off if it's
Mhm.
like we're trying to have an interaction, but it's not about me. It's
Mhm.
about the person that I'm
You're trying to
affiliated
get
with
to.
that you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
That's some disrespectful
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, facts.
Like, the fuck? I'm sitting right here. Like, deal with me.
Facts.
You know what I mean? At that. But, you know, my style has always been like, if there is a transaction to be
Mhm.
had, then even in general, I'm like this, but more so with my friends and my fam and like my people, it has to be so mutual.
Mhm.
Like no,
Everybody
neither
winning.
one of us can have like can be set up to gain more. And if that's the
Mhm.
case, I would rather it not be me.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
I
mhm.
would rather get less
Mhm.
in the transaction. That just is, I'm more comfortable in that way.
I'm 1000%
So it's like, cool,
with
okay,
you.
we're gonna do something. I'd rather it be 51-49 you.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Like,
Yep.
cause I'm like, cause if it's the other way, I'm like, man, they ain't gonna, cause I know I can handle that.
Yep.
I'm like, bet, okay, like I'm good with my 49. Like
Yeah.
this shit is great.
Yeah. And the magic is when both people approach it that way, right?
Because then
Now we
you
just
end
building
up
for
50-50.
yeah, exactly,
You probably
exactly.
end up-
But your point is so important because most people don't show up
Duh.
coming at it. It's 80-20. You know what I mean? Like you're bringing me something and I'm 99% of it and you're one,
Yeah.
right? And so that again, that's how I choose who I build with, right?
Oh, man.
If you coming at it like, yo, it's 40-60 you, I'm coming at it like it's 40-60 you, right? Then I feel comfortable.
We
We'll
good.
find our way.
We good.
We'll
I like
find our way.
that thread. I want to hire more of my folks.
Meaning
haven't
friends or black people?
Really both. I mean, yeah, I would say.
Mhm.
But I think more of my friends. Like, I mean, we got a brother. Like West Point is in itself is a fraternity, right? So like we're like all very close, especially like we all played football, like because we spent so much time together. Because you can't really leave fucking place. Like there's like prison.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like 4 years, we're with each other 300 out of 365, like maybe even more. I don't. It's probably more actually. If I think about it, it was probably like 340.
Yeah.
Out of 360.
Yeah.
So you know, you do that for 4 years, like we're just close, and then you know, a lot of folks that get deployed together, and probably there's even more things that that strengthen the bond. And I've always approached it like, man, I'm friends with like super brothers, like literally the best of the best. Like there's 50,000 applicants to West Point every year, and 1,000 get in. You know what I mean? And like of those 50,000, they had to go through. So like even that that's 50,000 that completed the process.
Yeah, that's small. 2%.
It's probably hundreds of thousands that actually couldn't complete the process. Would like to, but like, you know, to go to the point where like you get interviewed by a congressperson, like, you know what I mean? Like it's not fucking easy to do this shit. And so I'm like, well, damn, if I'm friends with 10 of these folks and they're black, they're my people, why are we not doing shit together?
Yeah.
Why are we not making money together?
Yep.
Because we talk about, almost in my group, we talk about everything except for money. And I'm really trying to break that. I even try to break that with Luigi, right? It's money in our community has always been this like source of like discomfort, right? Like awkwardness. And it's not so much that I need to know what your salary is and what you make or what I make, but like, it's okay for us to talk about making money together. What you investing in? Like, I'm investing in this. Like, man, you know, we got some ideas. Like, you want to go in on something? Like what? I don't know if you do that with your friends, but like,
no, I mean we're not even close to what we should be.
Fuck, man.
We would all say not even close to what we should be.
Yeah.
I feel like we're every day trying to get closer to that point, but we're missing on. We're 10% of what we could be.
We got it, because I've been around some other circles, and I would say some of my white friends, it's absolutely a discussion,
get money together,
right? Very comfortable about that, and I'll tell you, I still owe you this. I have to introduce you to Tommy, because one,
Tommy
Duncan, so the healthcare guy. One, because so I met him through Sharonda, who she's working with, but both of your guys' wives love champagne.
Okay.
So like there's that part of it. And then two, he's such a genuine dope brother. I mean, Luigi was here, and
does he live here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's right in the hills, closest maybe 10 minutes away.
Okay.
You know, not even.
Yeah, let's do it.
But one thing I love about him is he's always we'll sit and we'll talk, like we'll chop it up like and be cool shit, and then he'll finish, or like we'll get towards the end. He's like, but shit, nigga, we gotta make some money together. Like, how we gonna make some money together? Like, he's like real big about it. So he's like, so like, what's the thing? Like, what we talking about, man? I'm dealing with this. Like, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
And it's like so comfortable.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this brother pulled up in a fucking brand new Lambo. He's coming in. He's got a $300,000 watch on. Like, Tommy got money. He sold his company for $100+ million. His coat was hilarious. his coat was so fly. He had to take it off because he was like, man, I can't have people look at me in this coat. Like I got that shit was just for you. I ain't need that. We can have that film. I'm like, bro, you're ridiculous. But it's like,
This coat was just for you,
bruh. He literally took it off like it was a whole thing because we were trying to tell him, hyping him up, like, nah, do it with the coat on. He was like, nah.
Too much sauce.
But like man, that energy is so cool because despite even what he has, it's like we're peers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, cool. You know, his wife, they'll come over here for dinner. We'll go over there for dinner. They'll come over to your house. Man, you won't feel like at his house, it's sitting there. We had the real Wolf of Wall Street, John Sally, the biggest chiropractor in California, me, Scott, and then his barber. No ego, no nothing. And I'm looking at his barber who is just in awe of this, right? Like he's just, the house is beautiful. He's just like mind blown. So he's trying to take it in, and I was trying to like get him comfortable. But I'm looking at how Tommy interacted with, man.
It's all the same.
It was all the same, man.
I love that. So like, the one moment in time I wish I was around for, when people talk about like 90s hip hop in New York, it sounds like the rooms sound like what you just said. It was investment bankers, lawyers, rappers, drug dealers, like everybody together trying to figure out how we build. I'm like, I long for like that world. You know what I mean?
But like,
I long for that world.
Folks like you are driving that, man. This entrepreneurial community, when we can get out of our own heads and we realize that it's about the exit and liquidities, because right now it's too much celebrity rock star status from getting funding, but not the exit. And so because people don't expect to exit, like if you really get underneath these entrepreneurs, they don't expect to exit.
No. Black people don't start Black people start lifestyle businesses. The whole reason this business exists is to fund my lifestyle. Right?
And they're happy with that they've gone through a couple of raising events. They've been on some TV shows and some magazines or whatever. They're getting a cool little salary. And I'm like, really? You got a decent job. It's not.
Company ain't sustainable. People ain't eating. Company ain't
salary,
growing. Like
I have not had a salary, like true salary, that matched my corporate salary. I haven't had that yet. Shit, when I was VP at L'Oreal, I was chilling salary wise. Now all my shit is upside. It's all, my salary is fucking nothing. I gotta perform. So I'm looking at these cats like, but then you realize like a lot of them didn't really make money before. So this is their, all they did was they fundraised themselves to a job.
That's it.
And
they're in control.
Take the foot off the gas on getting to the exit. I'm
That's
like,
right.
But when you look at the numbers of where things are, like there's hundreds of millions of dollars in fees available for a Black-owned agency.
That's it. My Revolt strategy is the strategy, meaning we are Black owned, but we do everybody.
Absolutely.
Like that's what you have to
Cultures
be.
everywhere.
That's exactly right. That's what you have to be.
Oh man, I know I ain't gonna hold you up.
I'm gonna go see if there's a taco to taste before.
Oh, you got lots of tacos. I forgot you didn't eat yet.
Let's see what time it is. No, brother, thank you. I enjoyed it and I love it.